Aegis Ascendancy. Captain's Quarters. Captain Isabel Vega was dying. Not literally, of course. She had no fatal injuries, no catastrophic organ failure, and was in no immediate danger of combusting. But she felt like she was dying, and that was functionally the same thing. Her skin was on fire, but also freezing. Her head was so stuffed up that she was pretty sure she had actually entered a separate dimension. Every joint in her body ached like she had personally fought an exosuit in hand-to-hand combat. And worst of all, she was too weak to do anything about it. Which meant she was trapped in her quarters, wrapped in 3 blankets, sipping lukewarm water, and grumbling bitterly at her datapad because she now had to send a formal message to her alien counterpart, informing them that she would not be on duty. The problem? She wasn't about to tell Zilvatra that she was sick. Why? Because that would lead to questions. And those questions would spiral into confusion, over-analysis, and at least one emergency medical call. Aliens had no concept of human illness. Zero. Nil. Nada. The last time someone had so much as sneezed in front of Thal Zektor, the poor thing had nearly called for an emergency quarantine. And Issa? Issa did not have the energy to explain to an entire alien crew that humans sometimes just get weak and pathetic for a few days because of microscopic biological warfare. So instead she settled on something professional. Proper. To Captain Zilvatra. From Captain Isabel Vega. Subject: temporary reassignment of duties. Captain, due to a personal matter, I will be temporarily unavailable for the next several rotations. Command responsibilities will be deferred to Commander Patel until I am fit to resume duties. Please direct all immediate concerns to her. Captain Vega. Issa stared at the message, sniffed miserably, and hit send. That would be the end of it. Or so she thought. Because 6 minutes later, her datapad chimed with a response. To Captain Isabel Vega. From Captain Zilvatra. Subject: RE, temporary reassignment of duties. Captain Vega, your vagueness is noted and concerning. Elaborate. Captain Zilvatra. Issa closed her eyes, breathed deeply. Then, with the patience of a woman barely holding on to her last 2 brain cells, she typed again. To Captain Zilvatra, from Captain Isabel Vega. Subject: RE, temporary reassignment of duties. Captain, it is a personal matter, that is all the elaboration necessary. Vega. 4 minutes. Another ping. To Captain Isabel Vega, from Captain Zilvatra. Subject: RE, temporary reassignment of duties. Captain Vega, is this a matter of physical incapacitation or psychological distress? If the former, I require a medical report. If the latter, I am obligated to report this to your ship's medical personnel. Clarify. Captain Zilvatra. Issa wheeze-coughed and nearly threw the datapad across the room. Instead, she pushed through the pain and typed back, one painstaking letter at a time. To Captain Zilvatra, from Captain Isabel Vega. Subject: RE, temporary reassignment of duties. Captain, I am not incapacitated. I am not psychologically unfit for duty. I just require rest. That is all you need to know. Vega. This time she barely had 2 minutes before the next message arrived. To Captain Isabel Vega, from Captain Zilvatra. Subject: RE, temporary reassignment of duties. Captain Vega, your continued refusal to provide relevant information is highly suspicious. Are you injured? Is this a species-specific biological function? Is this related to mating behavior? Captain Zilvatra. Issa stared. Then stared harder. Then, despite her suffering, she let out an ugly, congested laugh that turned into a painful coughing fit. Because, of course, Of course this would spiral into aliens making it weird. Why wouldn't it? To Captain Zilvatra from Captain Isabel Vega, subject RE, temporary reassignment of duties. Zil, I swear to every god in the void, if you ever suggest that this is mating related again, I will airlock myself and haunt you personally. I am just unwell. Temporarily. This is not an emergency. That is all you need to know. Stop emailing me. Vega. The silence that followed was deafening. For a full 10 minutes, Issa dared to hope. Perhaps this was over. Perhaps Zilvatra had taken the hint. Perhaps she could finally suffer in peace. And then her datapad chimed again. To Captain Isabella Vega. From Captain Zilvatra. Subject, urgent inquiry, human unwellness. Captain Vega, I have researched the term unwell. It appears to be an extremely broad designation for a range of conditions varying from mild inconvenience to rapid terminal deterioration. Given your refusal to clarify, I must assume the worst. I am deploying medical personnel to your location. Prepare yourself. Captain Zilvatra. Issa made a horrible strangled noise and launched herself at the datapad. To Captain Zilvatra from Captain Isabella Vega. Subject, do not send medical personnel. Zil, I do not need medical personnel. This is not a medical emergency. I swear to every star in the galaxy, if you send anyone to my quarters, I will declare war on your entire goddamn species. I just have a cold. Vega. There was a long silence. Then, at last, a final message. To Captain Isabella Vega, from Captain Zilvatra. Subject, RE, do not send medical personnel. Captain Vega, what is a cold? Zilvatra. Issa slammed her head into her pillow and let out a low, miserable groan. This was her life now. This was what she had to deal with. Maybe she really would airlock herself. It might be less painful than this conversation. IGS Ascendancy. Science Lab number 4, aka the emergency soup situation. There were no official protocols for when the captain got sick. But if there was one universal constant among humans, it was that someone being sick meant they needed soup. And so, like some unspoken agreement, a small determined group of human astronauts had commandeered Science Lab number 4 once again. This time, not for war. This time, for soup. At one end of the lab, Tig Sean O'Callaghan stood at a stolen induction burner, aggressively chopping carrots with the energy of a man who took cooking personally. Chicken noodle soup is the objectively best sick food, he announced to no one in particular. Basic, solid, time-tested. It's what my ma made, what her ma made before her, and what I'm making now. That is a bold statement, Mira Patel responded dryly, stirring a pot of rasam with a look of practiced precision. Tig squinted suspiciously at her bubbling broth. That's got chili in it. Mira gave him a look. Rasam is designed to clear your sinuses, boost your immune system, and make you regret your life choices. She lifted the ladle to her lips, blew on it, and took a sip. It's perfection. At the opposite end of the room, Joe Marquez snorted, rolling out dough for Canja de Galina. You are all forgetting something, she announced. Portuguese soup is superior. We put rice in it. It's comforting, filling, and has everything the body needs. She paused and added with a smirk. Unlike your bland, tasteless water with noodles. Tig dropped his knife on the counter with an offended clatter. Oui, you want to start something, Marquez? No, Zanwei interjected calmly, standing between them like a mediator at a peace summit. Because if we're talking about superior healing soups, I should be making congee. Joe arched an eyebrow. Then why aren't you? Zhang frowned. Because ginseng chicken soup is also a valid option. He gestured between the two imaginary choices, as if trying to weigh the fate of humanity itself. One is soft, comforting, and easy to digest. The other has medicinal benefits. Mira gestured to her ransom. Mine has medicinal benefits. Tig scoffed. Mine has medicinal benefits. Joe snorted. Mine has medicinal benefits. Alexei Nowak, who had thus far remained painfully silent, muttered without looking up. All soup has medicinal benefits. The entire group turned to look at him. Alexei, stiff as a board, continued chopping parsnips for his Russell, desperately trying not to be perceived. Ty grinned, sensing an opportunity to drag someone into the conversation. Oh, so you're saying Polish soup is better than everyone else's? Alexei froze. Then, very quietly, No. Zhang crossed his arms. Then why are you making it? Alexei faltered. Then, after a long pause, Because Isa likes it. Silence. Then, Joe let out a soft, knowing, Ah. Alexei immediately turned bright red and focused intensely on his pot. Taik, still grinning, nudged Mira. You hear that, Patel? Man's going soft. Mira, who had been watching Alexei very closely, narrowed her eyes slightly. Then, instead of responding, she turned her attention to the one non-cook in the room. Dr. Safia Bashir, who had been standing in the far corner watching the entire exchange unfold with an expression of mild interest and deep exasperation. Dr. Bashir did not care about soup. They cared about Issa. And Issa, like an absolute menace, had refused to elaborate on the severity of her condition. Which was why they were here, not to cook, but to extract information. Mira? Mira Patel glanced over, still stirring her soup. Doctor? Bashir gave her a long, measuring look. How bad is she? Mira's staring faltered, just slightly. Then, after a beat, She'll be fine. Bashir's eyes narrowed. That wasn't my question. Mira sighed through her nose. It's not serious. Not serious for a normal person, or not serious for Isabella Vega? The room went quiet. Even Tig stopped chopping. Mira exhaled, pressing her lips together. She always downplays it, she admitted finally, voice low and controlled. And yeah, sometimes she gets hit harder than she wants to admit. But it's just a cold. She'll get through it. Bashir's expression remained unreadable. She needs meds. Mira's jaw tightened. She would take them. Bashir tilted her head. Then we make her take them. Mira, despite herself, smiled. Good luck with that. Bashir's lips curved just slightly. I always win. From the other side of the lab, Joe nudged Tig and whispered, 10 credits say Issa gets drugged against her will. 20, Tig whispered back. You're all terrible people, Zhang muttered. Shut up and make your soup, Mira snapped. And so, with quiet determination, they continued, because Issa deserved comfort. She deserved good food and rest and care, even if she fought against it with every fibre of her stubborn body. And, as always, when Issa refused to take care of herself, her crew would simply do it for her. Issa sneezed herself awake, groggy and miserable, her head pounding. She squinted blearily at her datapad, trying to focus only to see a new message waiting for her. To Captain Isabella Vega, from Dr. Safia Bashir, subject incoming medical intervention. Captain, you have exactly 15 minutes before I arrive at your quarters with medication. You can either take it willingly or you can take it unconscious.
Your choice, Dr. Bashir.
Issa stared. Then, with a weak, raspy laugh, she muttered,
I'm so fucked.
IGS Ascendancy. Hallway, en route to Captain Vega's quarters. There were many strange sights aboard the IGS Ascendancy. But to Research Officer Thal Zitor, few were as deeply unsettling as the line of humans currently advancing down the corridor like an uncoordinated but highly determined strike team. There were 6 of them. Their expressions were grim, their pace was deliberate. And they were each carrying something. A steaming bowl, a thermos, a carefully wrapped food container, several containers. Their leader, Thal Zitor recognized him as Tig O'Callaghan, the smallest but most aggressively chaotic of the human crew, was carrying a bowl of something fragrant, golden, and steaming. Thal Zitor stepped forward, blocking their path. What you carrying? The human stopped. A long, heavy pause. Then, without hesitation, Tig nodded towards his bowl and announced, Healing juice. Silence. Thal Zitor's mandibles twitched. Healing juice? Oi! No elaboration. None. The other humans did not correct him. Not even Dr. Bashir, the one human aboard who was technically obligated to provide accurate medical information. What does it do? Thal Zitor asked warily. Tig, expression unreadable, simply responded, Heals. And then, without another word, he and the other human simply stepped around Thal Zitor and continued marching. Thal Zitor, utterly baffled, watched them disappear down the corridor. Then, after a long pause, they tapped their communicator. Captain Zelvatra, they said slowly, I have encountered the humans. And? A beat. They were carrying healing juice. Silence. Then, a heavy, exhausted sigh. Understood. Thal Zitor, utterly not understanding anything, simply stood there, still staring after the retreating humans. IGS Ascendancy. Captain Vega's quarters. Issa knew. She felt it before it happened. That horrible creeping awareness that something was coming. That something was near. And then, in one singular horrifying moment, her door slammed open with the force of a full-blown tactical raid. Bang! Call response unit moving in. Secure the perimeter. Deploying soup. 6 humans stormed into her quarters like a SWAT team, moving with terrifying efficiency. Dr. Bashir, Mira, Joe, Zhang, Tig, and Alexei. Each one carrying some form of soup-based healing agent. Issa, barely able to lift her head from her pile of blankets, just stared at them. Mira strode forward, crouched beside her bed, and pressed a thermos into her hands. Drink. Joe set down another container. Eat. Zhang nodded towards the bedside table. More options available. Alexei, painfully avoiding eye contact, mumbled, I brought Lossel. Issa, half delirious, just blinked at them. What the fuck is happening? Tig, grinning like a madman, set down his bowl and patted her shoulder. You got sick, Captain. He gestured toward the assembled soup selection. So we brought healing juice. Issa just stared. And then, somewhere deep in her fever-addled brain, she realized they were not leaving. Not until she ate. Not until she drank. And most horrifyingly, not until she took her goddamn meds. She let out a long, suffering sigh, grabbed the thermos and muttered, I hate all of you. Joe just grinned. Love you too, Captain. And so, defeated, Captain Isabella Vega drank her goddamn healing juice. IGS Ascendancy. The bridge. Captain Zelvatra was deeply, profoundly tired. Commanding a multi-species vessel was already a logistical nightmare. Navigating interstellar relations? Difficult but manageable. Coordinating an entire crew of different biological, cultural, and social needs? Exhausting but expected. Dealing with humans? A never-ending descent into madness. And right now, standing in the middle of the command bridge, Research Officer Thal Zitor was proving that yet again.
Let me ensure I understand correctly,
Zilvatra said, mandibles twitching in suspicion.
You located Captain Vega?
Thal Zitor shifted.
No.
Zilvatra exhaled slowly.
Then why are you here, officer?
Thal Zitor's frilled plates twitched nervously.
Because, they began carefully, I encountered the humans.
Zilvatra's mandibles clicked sharply.
And?
Thal Zitor hesitated. Then, as though reliving a deeply disturbing event, they said,
They were marching.
Silence. The bridge crew, comprised of officers from 6 different species, all turned to listen. Zilvatra narrowed her 6 violet eyes.
Marching?
Yes.
With purpose?
Yes. Zilvatra's mandibles flexed. And where were they marching to? A long pause. Then,
Captain Vega's quarters.
Zilvatra straightened immediately. The bridge fell silent. Because if 6 humans were marching in formation toward their captain's private quarters, something was deeply, deeply wrong. Zilvatra's frills flared slightly.
Did they explain their purpose?
Another hesitation. Then, finally,
they were carrying healing juice.
Silence. The bridge officers exchanged uncertain glances. Finally, Zilvatra slowly said,
Healing juice? Yes.
Zilvatra processed this for a long moment.
Then, very carefully, she asked, What is healing juice?
Thal Zitor's mandibles twitched uncomfortably.
They did not say. Did you ask? Yes. And what did they tell you?
Thal Zitor hesitated again, then mimicked Tig's exact tone.
Heals.
A beat. Zilvatra let out a slow, exasperated exhale.
That is not an explanation. I am aware, Captain,
Thal Zitor said dryly. Another bridge officer, Navigator Auric Van, let out a concerned hum through his spherical vents.
Is the human captain injured? He asked, concerned. I do not know, Thal Zitor admitted, but she has not been seen since she sent the notice of her unavailability.
A quiet collective unease spread through the bridge. Humans were resilient. Humans did not just disappear. If 6 of them were marching in unison to their captain's quarters, carrying some kind of unknown medicinal substance, then... Zilvatra sat forward in her chair, frowning deeply.
If Captain Vega were injured, she would have reported to medical. Perhaps she is too injured to report, Auric Van suggested grimly.
Zilvatra's mandibles twitched in discomfort.
Would the humans not alert us to a medical emergency?
Thal Zitor hesitated. Then carefully, would they? The bridge went completely silent. Because the answer was probably not. Humans had a disturbing tendency to downplay injuries. One of them had once walked into medical with a broken bone and casually requested a bandage. They had witnessed humans ignore concussions, actively resist medical intervention, and describe what were clearly fatal wounds as not that bad. If something was seriously wrong with their captain, would they even tell them? Zilvatra shifted, uneasy.
Are you suggesting that the humans are concealing her condition?
A heavy pause. Then... Thal Zitor's frills lowered.
I am suggesting that the humans are preparing for something.
Silence. Auric Van's frills flared slightly.
You do not believe the healing juice is medicine, do you? Thursator's mandibles flexed tightly. I do not know what it is.
Another officer, weapons specialist Grivlek, shifted uncomfortably.
Perhaps it is a substance used in human end-of-life rituals, he suggested hesitantly.
The entire bridge crew stiffened.
Silvetra's mandibles clicked sharply. You are suggesting that Captain Vega is near death?
Grivlek lifted a segmented hand in uncertainty.
We have no records of human biology. We do not know they are fresh off a survival. If they are bringing her an unknown liquid, perhaps it is something used to ease the process.
The bridge fell into horrified silence, because that made a terrifying amount of sense. The humans had been marching, with grim determination, carrying unknown substances, heading straight for their captain. If Vega was dying, and the humans were preparing some kind of ritual for her...
Silvatra shot to her feet. Prepare a security team. I will not allow the human captain to perish without intervention.
Thursator nodded sharply.
Understood, Captain.
And with military precision, the alien crew mobilized. Because if Captain Isabella Vega was on her deathbed, they would not allow the humans to face it alone. Elsewhere, in Captain Vega's quarters. Issa sniffled, wrapped in a cocoon of blankets, sipping the last of her soup, while Dr. Bashir force-fed her medication with all the care of a professional assassin.
This is cruel and unnecessary,
Issa muttered, voice congested and miserable.
Is necessary,
Bashir countered, completely unaffected. Tig, grinning, leaned over.
Don't worry, Captain. The healing juice is kicking in.
Issa let out a weak, groaning laugh. I hate you all.
We know,
Mira said smugly. Alexei, still hovering awkwardly in the background, muttered, Do you need more soup? Issa just closed her eyes and sighed. And so, completely unaware of the absolute diplomatic disaster brewing outside her door, she let herself rest. For now. Wrapped in several layers of blankets, barely upright and half drugged on the medication Bashir had practically injected into her throat, she felt vaguely like a corpse. And yet, despite being reduced to a pathetic, congested husk of a human being, she was still surrounded by her officers. Dr. Scifi Bashir had stationed themselves directly beside her, arms crossed, glancing every time she even thought about resisting their medical tyranny. Tig, Zhang, Joe, and Alexei finally leave, but not before making sure Issa was sufficiently fed, drugged, and cocooned, beyond the point of mobility. And now there was just Mira. Sitting on the edge of her bed, arms resting loosely on her knees, stirring a half-empty mug of Rassam with a spoon. Not speaking, just watching her. Issa sighed, shifting onto the mountain of blankets. You're still here? Mira hummed. Yup. Issa exhaled, rubbing her temple. You can go, you don't have to. Mira gave her a flat, unimpressed look. Issa, still half delirious from cold medicine, immediately shut up. Mira continued stirring her soup. You always get sicker than you let on. Issa let out a weak, congested scoff. I get better. Mira's eyes narrowed slightly. Issa sighed, knowing where this was going. I'm fine, Mira. Mira tilted her head slightly. Are you? Issa, despite everything, grinned. You worried about me, Patel? Mira's lips curved, just slightly. No, I just don't want to fill out the paperwork if you die. Issa huffed a tired, amused breath. Silence stretched between them. Comfortable, familiar. Issa knew that Mira would never say it outright, that she would never make a fuss about it. But the fact that she was still here long after the others had left, quietly keeping watch, it was enough. It always was. Outside Issa's quarters, an unfolding diplomatic disaster. The problem with humans was that they did not explain things, and the problem with aliens was that they assumed the worst, which was why the hallway outside Captain Vega's quarters was currently the scene of a rapidly escalating misunderstanding.
Captain Vega is in recovery,
Zanwei said calmly, standing like an immovable barrier between the door and the approaching alien officers.
Recovery from what?
Sylvatra demanded, towering over them, her frill plates flaring in frustration.
Recovering from...
Zhang stopped. He realized too late that he could not explain this in a way that would make sense. So instead, he just finished with,
She's fine.
Sylvatra's mandibles clicked sharply.
Fine,
she repeated incredulously.
She has not been seen in hours. She sent a vague, cryptic message, and then I received reports that 6 humans had gathered and prepared an unknown liquid and marched in unison to her quarters like a funeral procession.
Tyag, still lingering nearby, perked up. Funeral? Who said funeral? It was soup.
For what purpose?
Tyag grinned. Healing juice. Sylvatra hissed in frustration.
That is not an answer.
Thalzator, standing beside the captain, looked genuinely distressed.
We are simply attempting to determine if the human captain is still...
alive? Tyag finished helpfully. Thalzator's frill plates twitched in horror.
So she might not be?
Zhang, rubbing his temples, muttered,
I hate this crew.
Sylvatra, entirely finished with this nonsense, turned to the security officer beside her and gestured sharply.
Open the door!
Wait! Zhang tried to protest, but it was too late. The aliens breached. Inside Issa's quarters, the scene of the death rite. The door slammed open so violently that Issa and Mira both snapped their heads toward it in alarm. And standing there, crowding into the entrance, were 4 alien officers, including Captain Sylvatra herself, her frill plates fully flared in distress. The moment they laid eyes on Issa, the room went completely still, because what they saw was Captain Vega, completely swathed in blankets, looking weak and miserable. Mira Patel, sitting beside her, head slightly bowed as if keeping watch. A half-empty mug of soup resting on a table, along with what looked like a row of medical vials. From an alien perspective, this was clearly a death vigil. Sylvatra's mandibles parted slightly in horror. Thalzator let out a small, choked clicking sound.
We were too late,
one of the officers whispered. Issa, half delirious, exhausted, and barely processing anything, just stared at them. What the fuck? Mira, expression unreadable, slowly turned to Issa. Do you want to explain, or should I?
Explain what?
Issa croaked. Sylvatra took a step forward.
We receive reports of a human ritual, of healing fluids, of coordinated movement, and now we find you here, barely conscious, with your second-in-command standing vigil at your bedside.
Issa blinked, then blinked again. Then slowly turned her head toward Mira. Standing vigil? Mira just sighed. I hate everything about this.
As do I,
Issa muttered. Before she could say anything else, Sylvatra moved closer, scanning her with frantic urgency.
You are still alive?
Issa groaned. Yes. Thalzator, clearly still distressed, muttered to Sylvatra.
Perhaps she is in denial of her fate. I can hear you!
Sylvatra narrowed all 6 eyes at her.
Then what is this? Why did your officers gather in secret? Why did they prepare a mysterious fluid? Why are you in this state?
Issa, beyond done with everything, croaked, I have a cold. Silence. Sylvatra's frills twitched slightly.
You have a...
what? Issa let out a miserable sigh. A cold. A minor temporary ailment. Thalzator, voice barely above a whisper, said,
This is a minor ailment?
Yes. Sylvatra looked at Mira.
Is this true?
Mira, pinching the bridge of her nose, muttered, "Yes." Another silence. Then, Sylvatra exhaled deeply and turned to her officers.
"We are leaving," she declared.
Thalsator, still visibly shaken, hesitated.
"But now?"
And just like that, they turned and marched out, leaving Issa buried in blankets, exhausted, deeply miserable, and wishing she could eject herself into space. Mira, watching them go, finally just shook her head. "I hope that was worth it." Issa let out a weak groan. "I hate this crew." Mira just patted her shoulder. "Sure you do." And so, finally, Issa gave up, sank into the blankets, and succumbed to sleep. Because she was done. Forever. Captain's log. Captain Isabella Varga, IGS Ascendancy. Date, 145th Galactic Cycle, Rotation 42. Subject, the Healing Juice Incident. Captain Isabella Vega reporting. It has been 3 days since I was forcibly quarantined in my own quarters by my overly concerned soup-wielding officers. I am still sick. Not dying despite what half the alien command crew seems to believe. Not on the verge of collapse despite Dr. Bashir's highly aggressive medical intervention tactics. Just sick. I have spent the past 72 hours attempting to explain to Captain Sylvatra why this is not a crisis. This has been unsuccessful, because apparently the entire Galactic Concord Species database contains exactly 0 references to the concept of illness. None. Nothing. They do not get sick. They have never gotten sick. They evolved past disease thousands of generations ago, likely before they even became sapient. And now, because I had the absolute audacity to develop a minor upper respiratory infection, I have had to spend hours of my miserable, fever-ridden existence trying to explain what a cold is to people who do not even have immune systems anymore. I have attempted multiple explanations. 1. It is a temporary bodily malfunction caused by microscopic biological entities. Sylvatra's response?
"You are being attacked from within your own body?"
Thalsator's response was horrified clicking noises. 2. It is an evolutionary holdover. Our immune system fights it off naturally.
Sylvatra's response: "Then why do you not simply remove this system?"
My response: that is not how evolution works.
Sylvatra: "Then your species is flawed."
3. It is unpleasant, but it will pass in time.
Sylvatra's response: "We assumed you were dying."
My response: I was not.
Sylvatra: "You look like you were."
Mira Patel's response: "To be fair, she always looks like that when she's sick." Sylvatra just gave uncomfortable silence. At one point, weapons specialist Grivlek requested to observe the biological phenomenon in real time for the sake of scientific study. I told him no. Dr. Bashir told him hell no. Tai suggested we sneeze on him to see what happens. Sylvatra has now banned all human illnesses from the ship. I have no idea how she thinks that will work. In conclusion, I am recovering. My crew remains insufferable. The aliens remain perpetually confused. And I remain resigned to my fate. End log.